part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
This week 3 and week 4 Cavs on the Break NBA podcast is brought to you by our good friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. And even though this is an NBA podcast, we know Cleveland loves its Browns and the NFL. And the NFL season is going strong, let me tell you. And the DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking new customers up with an offer that's even stronger. If you bet $5 on any game this week, you can score $200 instantly in bonus bets. That's right. Bet $5 for the first time on any game this week, and you can score $200 instantly in bonus bets. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweetener offer every game this October. I'm talking about same game parlays, single plays like yardage over unders, who scores first, and even team bets. I like personally throwing in a couple money line parlays together and see what hits. Get on the game day greatness today by downloading the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code P3Cavs for that sweet $200 instant bonus bets with a $5 bet. Again, that's P3Cavs to activate that $200 instantly in bonus bets for new customers only when you bet $5 on the NFL. That's code P3Cavs only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available. If you have a problem gambling, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccp.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas City. Licensed partner, Golden Nugget Lake, Charles, Louisiana. 21 age and over varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after assurance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources apply.
How's it going, everybody? This is Ben Billman, the host of the Full 40 College Basketball Podcast. I'll be coming to you weekly with the latest news and notes in college basketball. We'll be talking about which teams are rising, which teams are falling, and any other news or headlines that are dominating the world of college basketball, all the way until March Madness.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup, oh, blocked by James! It's over, it's over! Cleveland is a city of champions once again! The Cavaliers are NBA champions!
What's good, breakers? That sound means it's time for a Cavs on the Break NBA podcast presented by DraftKings, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chase Smith, and with me, he's the NBA writer for HoopsWire.com. He's our Cavs insider on the beat, national NBA writer, Sam Amico. Sam, you're on your way home from the Cavs' disappointing loss to the Portland Trailblazers, who are on, I forgot there for a moment. It was just so devastating. Sam, welcome to Cavs on the Break, man. This is like your 100th appearance.
Wow. Do I get some kind of award? Thank you, by the way, for having me for almost 100 episodes or around there.
Yeah, this is like 116th episode, and I'm just assuming this is your 100th appearance. So you're already starting off the episode strong, man.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, I'm happy to have been on this long, and I'm really thrilled because, again, John Sabol is here as well.
That is true. Again, John Sabol, sports at Fox 8, host of Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. John Sabol. John, what's up, baby?
Hey, what's good? I wish we had a better thing to talk about than one of the most the most embarrassing Cavs loss of this campaign thus far. Last time we were this upset, the Cavs got kicked out of the playoffs by the Knicks. I'm good. I'm doing well.
That's John. That's what it seems. Not only is it just them getting booed off their home court, which they did when they lost, but the response, the tweets, the post, no one is happy in Cavs town. Sam, how are you feeling? Are you happy? Where are you at? Where is your mental state? Because I would love to share mine at some point.
I'm a generally happy guy, so I'm happy, but I could see where the Cavs might be, and certainly fans are questioning, what just happened, losing to the Portland Trailblazers, who I think were on a 9-10 game losing streak at one point earlier this year. They came out of it, beat somebody, and then they almost beat Milwaukee in Milwaukee a few nights ago. Really, a couple of bad bounces. They lost to the Bucks in Milwaukee. Then they beat the Indiana Pacers, and now they beat the Cavs. So, I mean, that's no comfort for Cavs fans because this really should have been a schedule loss for the Blazers. But I just think, look, you're going to play bad some nights in the NBA. This was not ideal, and this was not really acceptable to lose to a team that you had down 16 points, and you let the wheels come off, you let them back in the game. So, it's a bad loss, it's a bad look, and early season injuries or not, guys, the Cavs have to start protecting their home court. They're 5-6 at home. And that's, last year they finished 31-10 at home. This year already they have 6 home losses. So, and now you're totally healthy. You're talking about how we're finally getting their reps, so I can understand the fans' anger over this.
Woo, John, where are you at with the Cavs, man? Is this Cavs on the Bleak right now?
Yeah, when you texted that in the group chat, I had a good laugh at that. It is kind of a little bleak right now. I mean, yes, it's early. It's not Christmas time yet, but at some point in time, you got to start playing better ball at home. This was a strength of this team last year, and so far this year, they just have not been able to do it. And a lackluster effort. I mean, effort was just not there tonight. Not just on defense, but I mean, lazy passes, too many turnovers, guys just kind of walking up the court, joking around, not really having fun. You let a team come in there that is one of the worst teams in the NBA, and they lit you up like a Christmas tree. And it was embarrassing to end that homestand like that. And it's just something that it starts from the top, and JB and company have got to get this figured out because, there's a lot of time left, right? They need to have a come to Jesus meeting, if you will, because they need to figure this out. Put everything out on the table, air your grievances, figure out why, certain things are going a certain way. They got to do something because this cannot linger once they go on another road trip or, through the holidays, because we always talk about this. You get through Christmas. After Christmas is, the unofficial mark of where teams are in the NBA. And when you start to see teams, buyers or sellers, I know we're not there yet, and I think this Cavs team will be, still potentially a playoff team, no doubt. But you can't be playing like this, and it's just a bad look.
You hit on a lot there, John, that I think we're going to talk about in this episode. But before we just completely crap on the Cavs' performance tonight, last time we recorded, we mentioned they are going to be hosting the NBA champion Denver Nuggets. They're traveling to Philadelphia. And they had some games that were going to be testing this team that really hadn't had any marquee wins to date. And guys, before tonight, all was well at the Rock. Before tonight, there was really no major sirens, major alarms. I mean, they performed really well against a Denver team, although they were injured. They played super hard without Donovan Mitchell against the Sixers in Philadelphia. Talk about a playoff atmosphere. That everyone played hard in that game. I mean, the last 2 quarters plus overtime was playoff atmosphere, defense, like the crowd was in it. And why? So I guess my question is, why is this one loss all of a sudden we got to get things figured out, come to Jesus meeting, JB's getting fired? Why do we jump immediately there?
Okay, let me tackle that first, if you don't mind, Sam. I think despite some of those big wins against Philadelphia and Denver, and playing hard in that Hawks game for that play-in tournament, thank God, by the way, that's over with, and beating the Raptors, I think there were still some underlying issues here that I think that were kind of clouded, that were kind of brushed off to the side because we just didn't see it because they were kind of winning in these games. I mean, there's so many times you watch this team play and there's like a disconnect with chemistry on the court. There's disconnect in the defensive side and how they handle and how they're giving any or the lack thereof effort. JB's rotations are really weird and like not consistent enough. I mean, I'll give you tonight as an example, Chase. I mean, there were 8 guys playing. Then an eight guy rotation that saw minutes against a Portland team. I don't know, just little things like that I think are kind of accumulate, and you take one big step forward and you kind of forget about it. But then right when you hit some adversity like it is tonight, everything happens. Everything gets uncovered.
Yeah. Well, and before Sam jumps in here, I think one of the frustrations about tonight is and I'm not the only one that talks about this, about basketball. A lot of times the best player on the court, that team's going to win. It comes down to who has the best player. Not one player who started for the Trailblazers tonight would start for the Cavs. All 5 of the Cavs starters are better than any player on the Trailblazers. And fans know that. There's no way that this should have been, like you said, this should have been a scheduled loss for the Trailblazers. And it actually was, we wasn't really even close. Mitchell tried to get something going about 2 minutes ago. We had an 8-0 run, but we couldn't do anything. Sam, what about this game caused this much uproar?
Well, yeah, like you said, Chase, coming into tonight, they had won 6 of 8 Cavs. And they did have that win in Philly. That was nice, without Donovan Mitchell. But really, that game, you compare that in that game and the effort in the game against the Blazers, and that's where, to me, the biggest trouble lies, is, and that can happen in the NBA. It shouldn't happen, maybe quite as often as it does with these guys, it seems. But you don't have to give the exact effort. I mean, that Philly game, I haven't seen that type of effort from the Cavs all year against anybody else.
Right.
I mean, it was just, we're going to come in here and prove people wrong. Well, they didn't have that tonight. They had, they got up 40-24. When they got up 40-24, Mike Snyder from WTAM looked over at me and was like, well, this one's over. And I was like, yeah, of course it is. I'm going to start writing my story probably. And then the Blazers,
strong. It was like 45-40 at halftime, which is absurd.
46-40. And I think at that point, the Blazers thought, well, let's go see if we can win this thing.
Yeah.
We weren't expecting to be here, but here we are.
That's a halftime score in the 90s.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yes, right. Right. Their defense was good enough for most of the game, but the offense led to so many easy baskets for Portland. Portland hit a bunch of threes there to, it was a 28-point swing. Third quarter, yeah. Made it a 28-point swing. They went down from 16 up to 12, up by 12. Portland did. So to me, it was just the effort. I think that the effort wasn't necessarily there at the beginning, but Portland was just, so road weary that they were trying to get their legs under them. And once they did that lousy effort, they didn't turn it back on in time. So I think overall, the Cavs are okay. They're going to be fine. There's 61 more games to go still. However, this is, like John said, these are things that can lead to a disappointing season where you don't make the playoffs, where you underachieve because you're not giving effort against teams that you're supposed to beat. You're not giving full effort against teams like probably coming in just assuming they were going to lose. I mean, Portland probably came in and thought, well, if we lose this game, after the game, we're going to tell everybody, well, it's the third game of a 5-game trip. We got one in Indiana the other night. So, we played hard tonight. We weren't expecting to win. But no, the Cavs made it easy for Portland to win. And that's where, as John said, these are habits that could last all season that, have kind of reared their ugly head from time to time, even when the Cavs have won those games, that they're going to have to be on the lookout for.
Yeah, you talked about effort, and I think there's 2 conversations I want to have around effort, John. We'll start with you. One is about Darius Garland, and one is about Coach JB Bickerstaff. And I asked
I posted on Threads and Twitter that we were going to be recording tonight, and I had someone submit a question on Threads. Matt Hagan, he said this: Garland has 7 turnovers through 3 quarters. He ended with a game high 8. Wants to know, how concerned are we, or how concerned is the team? And talk about effort. I mean, you mentioned you got to take care of the ball.
You do, and 8 turnovers. I'm looking at that. I'm just kind of shocked, because think about this. That's your floor general on the team. You cannot have your point guard doing that. That is the biggest concern with Darius Garland's play, guys. We've talked about it extensively before on the podcast. And as Darius has publicly too, that's the part of his game that he needs to work on, is his turnovers. And unfortunately, right now, we actually saw him take a big dip in that category last year. But this year, he is averaging 4.2 turnovers a game. That was entering tonight. So, and that's up from 2.9 last year. You don't want to go too far into the stats and bore our listeners here, but when you have that big of a jump in a statistical category that is negative, that's not good. That's a problem, that you're not going to win many ball games, or you're going to be in tighter games than you should be, and it's based on your point guard. You do not want your guy to be doing that. How do you fix it? Well, I mean, he's got to just take the ball. He's got to be cognizant of his passes. He's got to be cognizant of the defenders around him. He's just got to just take care of the ball a lot better, because one little turnover can spark runs, and it happened tonight multiple times. And Sam talked about those runs, by the way. Sam, that run in the third quarter, I think the Trailblazers went on a 16-3 run, I believe it was. And there were turnovers in that whole streak right there. And that's after the Cavs, entering the second quarter, went on a 15-2 run to go up 40-24. And when you look at that Cavs run, they didn't turn the ball over during those possessions. No. So it is a contagious problem. It's like the Browns wide receivers. They can't catch a ball. Exactly. It's something that I would like to think it's an easy fix, but I think it's more of a mental thing than anything. I don't think you're focused in there. I don't know if Darius is focused in there. And you know what? We kind of alluded to this before. Maybe you need another point guard in there with veteran leadership to kind of help him a little bit. He does not have that.
I want to give Garland a little bit of credit, because one of the knocks that I had against him whenever he came into the league was, yes, there are turnovers, but also he was just on the ground a lot. I feel like he just always defaulted to falling on the floor, and he has gotten better about that. I haven't seen him default to just crumbling on the floor when he drives. But yeah, this has been part of his MO. First, he was injured a lot, which he still kind of is a little injury prone. But Sam, is it a focus thing? What do you think is Garland's turnover issue here?
Make the simple pass. That's it. Make the simple pass. He's always trying. He's not always. And I love Darius Garland as a player. Don't get me wrong. But if you're going to go from pretty good point guard, which he is right now, to elite, to regular all-star, and he has that potential.
To a point guard that backs up his big contract.
To be a point guard, right. To be a point guard who's a regular all-star. He has that potential. If he doesn't make the all-star team, you want him to be good enough that if he doesn't make the all-star team, you say, well, he got robbed. But you can't say that now, because you make too many turnovers. Make the simple pass. And he struggles with that. He's trying to make the alley-oop, highlight-worthy, Instagram-worthy pass too often. And I noticed at the end of the game, when they're under duress, the Cavs are playing under duress, he's making the simple pass. He's not trying to make, but during the course of the game, too often, there was 2 passes he had tonight against the Blazers, and I've seen this the other game, where he tries to throw that alley-oop to Evan, Jared Allen, and that's a great play when it works, but you can't do it every time down the floor. Twice, it got blocked. That pass got blocked. It got stolen out of the air. And you know what? You don't have to make that play every time. That play's not going to be there. They're going to figure it out. So don't just pull the ball back out, make the simple pass. Not everything has to be highlight worthy to get on the All-Star team.
Look, I
If
get
you
it.
just
I
play
spam the
game
alley-oop
the
button
right
in NBA
way,
Live. I get it.
absolutely. You know what? It's easy to do. It's easy to think that way.
L2, L2,
What's
L2.
going to get the fans, going? It's when there's a alley-oop pass, or when there's and he doesn't try behind the back passes very often, but there's too many careless passes in traffic, and I don't know. It's almost, and I'm sure he's not thinking this way, but when you watch him, you think he's thinking, well, it might get there. It might not, but if it gets there, man, it's really going to, it's going to raise the roof. And you don't need to do that. Just take care of the basketball, set up your offense. And you know what? John's right. I think that, Ricky Rubio, God bless him, but not having him around, that you need that veteran presence around Garland for now to get him to kind of make those good decisions, smarter decisions. You need a veteran point guard in his ear, I think. And I think maybe they will realize that at some point. But look, aside from the turnovers, the guy's fantastic. But those turnovers are really bogging down not just his credibility, but bogging down the team. And it's unnecessary because it's always the result of a careless pass. It's not an honest mistake. It's being careless with the basketball.
And that's where my concern comes in, as these turnovers aren't really coming out of him being aggressive. It's just careless stuff. He is supposed to be a playmaker, a drive and dish, a point generator for this team. And so that's going to be expected. You're going to have the ball. You're going to have a lot of, the share of the offense. And so there's never a perfect player. You're going to have turnovers as part of the game, but not just do it out of aggression and not out of careless showboating. Right.
Look,
I feel like
Malcolm
only old
Brogdon,
farts say showboating.
Right. Malcolm Brogdon, who I love as a player, who's like the ultimate, point guard.
Consummate point guard.
Yeah. He had 5 turnovers tonight. He'll have some games, but they all come within the flow of trying to, he's not trying to do anything flashy. There's not a less flashy guard in the league than Malcolm Brogdon who's effective. And he had 5 turnovers. So it's okay if you do that. Just find ways to make up for it and don't make it a habit. And that's the kind of player he is. So I think that, you could get on a guy for turnovers, which we could always do. But the point is, make other winning plays. If you're turning the ball over and you're being aggressive and it gets turned over or whatever, that's okay. But make other winning plays. And I just feel like Darius has not had a good mix of that enough. He's a better player than this. And I think he knows it. The Cavs know it. They've just got to get it in his head. You've got to handle this, take care of this, because you're going to lose to teams that you should never lose to if you don't take care of the ball.
John?
Yeah, Malcolm Brogdon, if he was a car, he'd be a Toyota Corolla. Dependable. Absolutely. And always going to get things done. But yeah, that's a good comp, or I should say a good description of how he is. Doesn't get the credit he deserves throughout his career now in the league. But yeah,
he's just the new age Mike Conley. It's okay.
Less flashy, less athletic, I would say, than Mike Conley, maybe. But yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
One more point real quick, Chase, before we go to your next topic here.
Yeah.
The point, the turnover things, when Sam's talking about, you can make these turnovers, but they got to be on smart plays. They have to be, not careless. To me, it's just a lack of focus. And if you don't have that focus during the game, and you're kind of like passing the ball haphazardly, and your defense is already awful, what are you doing in practice? What is the coaching staff doing with you? If there is that big of I don't call it a disconnect, I will call it a regression, then in a bad habit, that is a problem that is hard to resolve, that needs to get resolved. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not at practice. I think most of the practice is off to people on the beat. But I don't know. It's so, John, are you concerned?
I mean, I'm concerned with some of those habits. And we said it the last time we recorded 2 weeks ago. The habits that we're seeing haven't gone away. If anything, they've gotten worse, even though they've won those games. I still think they haven't played their best basketball yet. They have not played consistently enough. Yes, they won 6 of 7 entering the game. I get all that. Maybe there's a different variable in there, and they were really trying harder to get in the play-in tournament, which we saw with the Hawks game, which adds another point to my point, I guess, or another evidence to my point. If you're trying harder and you're focused, then maybe you're not gonna do those bad things you're doing tonight against Portland. Which is funny because if you're really trying that hard to play for a meaningless tournament, which the whole NBA was in-season tournament was designed to do, I guess mission accomplished. But I still think that there are some glaring issues and bad habits that haven't gotten resolved, and they need to get resolved. And that's on JB to get it straight.
Well, that was an awesome segue. It's like you do this for a living, John. Because I do think the main talking point from this game is JB Bickerstaff. He's on the hot seat. Is it fair, Sam, to say JB's on the hot seat? Is that fair?
I would say he's not on the hot seat yet.
Oh, John, is he on the hot seat?
As we record
Chase
this,
is not going to stop. Chase is not going to stop until he gets the.
No, I'm just curious. No, it's truly getting engaged.
I will say this. I don't know if he's on the hot seat, but his seat's getting warmer and warmer and warmer.
Ooh, this is
the kind of loss that gets coaches fired. Yeah.
Well,
exactly. He's not getting fired yet. I say yet because
these kind of games.
Exactly. Like what Sam said. If you continue to have regressions in production or lack thereof in games like this, then then that conversation becomes way more prevalent, way more in circles.
If that question is on more lips than just ours, if that question is being talked about not only among fans but among other professional journalists and media members, how is that not on the hot seat?
That's why I say it's warm.
You're not going to fire a coach who's 10-9, who took you to the playoffs last season, and he's 10-9, and you've had so many injuries in the first 7-8 games, maybe first 10 games. You're just not going to do that. And the players like him, and I don't see to me, like, what's so glaring that he need, and who are you going to hire? Who are you going to bring in? Who do you want to replace him?
Me.
Right.
Well,
I would be on board with that too, Chase.
I know you would, Sam.
I don't know if we want to go down that road, Sam, and waste time to talk about that now here after a loss, but I think there's a time and place where we can have that pod of replacing if things spiral out of the control.
Look, I
think it's kind of putting that panic button too much if we talk about that right now.
It was a piss poor showing in the playoffs, and they're going to want a scapegoat. And if they want to do one major swing to keep Mitchell for next, I don't know. I think it is more of an issue than people realize. Guys, there is a team chemistry culture issue going on.
Yes.
I've mentioned this before. I've tweeted it. I tweeted Hayden Grove tonight after the game, and that is it is a thing. If you watch the team, they just don't look like a team. Players don't enjoy playing with each other. It is evident from watching them. I highlighted the Strus and Tristan Thompson interaction post game a couple weeks ago, and tonight when Strus fouled out, I was watching the game. He fouled out. He didn't acknowledge any player, any coach. He just walked off the court, and I texted this group. I said, hey guys, did Strus just walk immediately to the locker room after his sixth foul? Because the broadcast Bally Sports, they cut away. I don't think it was intentional because they were shooting, because someone was shooting a free throw. Thibault, I think, was shooting a free throw or something. But it was just like, he was just like not wanting to be. Honestly, it was PTSD of LeBron in Boston, just walking off the court and taking his jersey off. I bet Strus took his jersey off in the hallway. I guarantee you he did. That was the walk and the speed that he walked towards the locker room. It's evident. It's evident. If you just watch this team, there are people that play hard, and I don't know. I'm not on the beat. I'm not on the staff. I don't know if you know this. I've played college basketball. John, do you know that? Have I mentioned that before?
I have. I do remember you telling me that.
Jeremy
that, as well as your
Jeremy is
IMDb
like rolling
acting
over
career.
right now.
Sabol and I get together and watch Chase Smith highlights on YouTube.
After we start reading his IMDb page.
Oh, okay. All right. That was a low that was a low ball shot. Well, since you're making fun of me, let me just continue. Our little Bible college played Coastal Carolina when I was a junior. And we drove down there. We played. We were getting thrashed. We were up by like 40. They were up by 40. And so our coach clears the bench. And so my parents were watching the game on ESPN since it's D1. Like they were having like the live tracker stuff. And so I was in with like the final 3 minutes. Here were my final 3 minutes. 1 foul, 1 turnover, 1 rebound, 1 3-point shot made, 1 assist. Like I was just like all over the place doing stuff. On my turnover, the team, people are actively turning this podcast off right now.
Not me, I'm turning it up.
Sam's turning it up. I turn the ball over. They're on a break. I don't get out of the way of the dunk. I jump and challenge the attempt. They missed the dunk, but I fouled them and they didn't get the N1. Obviously the Coastal Carolina bench thought it was going to be a massive dunk because I was the shortest guy on the court by maybe a foot. I don't know. But then I got some respect because they dapped me up later. And anyway, so that's my D1 example. There is a team.
Does that relate to the Cavs in any way at all?
There's a team chemistry issue.
Okay.
There's a team chemistry issue on the Cavs, and I don't know. I think it's a problem. That's either going to be a player only meeting, which why does that happen all the time in Cleveland? I don't know. Or they're going to do some Christmas party and it's going to fix everything. I don't know, but it's a problem, Sam. It's a problem.
I'm not going to, look, I'll tell you what, I was just talking to a guy after the game, another writer, younger writer, and was talking to him about the year that the Cavs lost 26 straight. And I was like, yeah, I was on the beat the year before that, before LeBron left in 2010, 2011. And then the next year. And I said, so I've basically seen it all. And then LeBron comes back, saw the highs, from when he came back. And I would say, look, we tend, and I'm not saying that the three of us are doing this, but we tend to overreact on every moment. Whether, hey, we beat the Cavs, beat the Nuggets at home, or crush the Hawks, or, whatever. We get too high with those. And then we get really low when they lose the home game that they should never lose to the Portland Trail Blazers. And I don't know. I can tell you this. Usually cultures and chemistries aren't really all that great in the NBA. That's all. I don't know about other sports, but these guys, they get along fine. They all go their separate ways after the game, even if they're like, it's not like, when these guys get dressed, when the Cavs won the championship, LeBron wasn't going out to eat with Kevin Love and Kyrie or hanging out with them after the game.
Well, maybe
they all
Kevin
have their
Love.
own lives. No, not really. No,
well, doesn't his daughter have like a nickname for Kevin Love?
Yeah, they have,
like friends.
Probably more of a connection, but they're not, LeBron has his people, and I'm not just saying LeBron, everybody, Max Strus has his people, Jared Allen has his people. These guys all go their separate ways. So really the only time, yes, they spend a lot of time together at practice. They spend a lot of time together in the playing together, but generally not hanging out a whole lot. So I don't really look, the culture doesn't come from the players or how they like each other. Or, I had somebody ask me the other day, does this player like that player? I'm saying, I don't know. That's totally irrelevant. What matters is if the coach can get these different personalities to perform together. And if they can't, then it's either a coaching problem or it's a GM problem. It's a roster problem. And I don't think the Cavs are there yet. I don't see any evidence that this group just can't play together. I see evidence that this group can play together, and now it's on the coach to make sure he brings it out of them and gets them to perform to the best of their abilities. It's really only a culture problem when, one player hates another or hates the coach, or, they're losing all the time. They're on a 10-game losing streak or something. And I don't think the Cavs are there yet. I really don't. I've seen culture problems, but with the Cavs, this right now does not compare. There's not a ton of what I will say to further your point, Chase, is I don't see a ton of connection with the guys on the court right now, or in the locker room. It's not that they don't get along, but they're not, there's just not a ton of connection or a guy bringing them all together. I don't see that. I don't think it's a culture problem, but I don't see a lot of connectivity either, I guess.
I that's why I label it more, Sam, as a disconnect. And I think that's from the top to the bottom.
Yeah, I could see that. Yes.
I don't label as a disconnect, because when players go rogue during a game and don't listen to a coach, that is not a disconnect. That is a culture.
Well, who didn't listen to the coach?
I've just heard things on the West Coast trip. There was some stuff during game that I don't know, unconfirmed sources, and it just sounds like a culture problem. So I don't know, maybe disconnect. That's not what I'm going to call it, because I do think it matters when players like each other, when players respect each other, when players think they're the only ones playing hard or only ones taking it serious or whatever. I think that's a problem.
Yeah, it can be, but I don't know that one if a player reacts a certain way, with Strus walking off the court after a 6 foul, to me that's not that's a guy who's frustrated that they're losing.
Sure.
I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know
yes.
that's necessarily, I hate everybody around me.
And I'm not saying he does. Maybe
he's frustrated with himself. Could be frustrated with himself too, So I don't know. I will say this, just from being around the team, I don't see. You can usually tell in the locker room when, guys are not talking to each other, or it's just, I don't know. Tonight is not a good example. I think this is the absolute lowest of the low they've gone all year. Is losing a home game to Portland. You know what I mean? So it's not a good example. I think if the culture would be determined, Chase, and over a 10, 20 game stretch of this kind of stuff. If you see this if you go watch the Chicago Bulls,
I don't want to watch the Chicago Bulls. I don't want to do that. Don't punish me, Sam.
To Sam's point,
I would want that.
To Sam's point, I guess if there's one good thing about this is the Cavs had their most embarrassing loss of the season here on November 30th. This happened so early in the season. If this was happening in, March or April before the playoffs, and they were still in the playoff hunt, that's a problem. I mean, there's a lot of ball left, guys, no matter how bad it looked against the Blazers.
Well, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we want to talk about the upcoming games for the Cavs and see what all this looks like. Stick around, Cavs on the break. We will be right back.
Hey, Breakers, Chase Smith here. I know you're a huge fan of the Cavs, and let's be honest, probably any professional team in Cleveland you're going to like. And there's no better way to show it by wearing your team colors to the office or around the house. Homage makes the most stylish Cleveland Cavs gear, and it's the most comfortable. And what better time to get yourself a gift than this holiday season? Head on over to the link in our show notes to see what Homage has to offer. They offer a wide range of official NFL, NBA, and MLB licenses, as well as official gear from Nickelodeon and the WB. Yes, that's right. They do more than sports. There's something for everyone over at Homage.com. Personally, I have this awesome maroon Cavs hoodie with the gold Cavs lettering over the front, a Garland Mobley NBA Jam style t-shirt, and a super comfy Columbus Clippers t-shirt. I wear these items all the time, especially this new Cavs hoodie. It's warm, it's cozy, and I don't want to take it off. It's the best. It looks great. Check out the link in our show notes and get your Homage gear today.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tybus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tybus, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sabol.
And I'm Scott Sabol, and we're hosts of the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
The R&R podcast going to be rocking and rolling with you because football season is underway. College, Ohio State, the Power Fives, the MAC, the Browns. Michael Regai, are you ready to rock and roll with some football?
Kenny, I've been ready. This is our time of year. This is what R&R is all about. We're going to be with you every week. Kenny just said it, Browns, NFL, Ohio State centric. So you got to stay with us all fall and winter long here on R&R.
That's right. The Regai and Rhoda podcast coming to you here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Subscribe now and don't miss a show.
Hey, I'm Jason.
And I'm Gary, and we love ball cards.
And if you love ball cards too, good news. You just found your new favorite podcast. From breaks to grading.
And from collecting to flipping, join us on the Ball Card Show.
The sports podcast for the sports collector.
All right, we are back. Cavs on the break. Sam Amico, John Sabol, Chase Smith here. And I wish this could be a more positive podcast. We're trying to not be so bleak and negative, but with a loss like that, just is nasty in your mouth. Home loss against the Trailblazers. Here are what the Cavs schedule looks like over the next couple weeks. They did not make the in-season tournament. And let me explain how that happened. The Cavs had a 3-1 record in their group. Indianapolis, the Pacers were undefeated. And so that left us as 3-1. And we lost to the Knicks in the wild card spot because of point differential. And so that is why we did not make the playoffs, the in-season tournament playoffs, because we had the same record. We lost the tiebreaker, which is point differential, I think just by like 15 or 20 points.
Yeah, you know why? Because they didn't give great effort against the Pistons in their one game, and they only beat them by like 8 points. Had they won that game like they should have by like 20 points, they would be going, and then John Sabol would be unhappy because they'd still have to talk about the tournament.
I like the tournament. I like it.
Then they try to make it up on keeping their reserves in when they're not by 15 against the Hawks late in the game.
Well,
I honestly think they didn't know at the time of the Pistons. I don't think they understood the point differential then.
I don't think anybody did, Sam. I don't think anybody still does. I mean, even after the Hawks game, I mean, you were there. The Cavs are like, oh, well, did we win? Did we advance? Like, what's going on? That's a conversation at a different day, is why this NBA in-season tournament's dumb.
I disagree.
I like it.
I like it too.
If you want to, the rules have to be better. That'd be more clear. I mean,
record and point differential. That's it. That's it. Record and point differential. What's hard about
like,
that?
You need to have a better flow of keeping fans in the game. Because think about it, Cavs had 4 games against the Hawks. There's 4 games going on that they are looking at, right? Yep. Celtics, Knicks, Heat. I'm gonna miss another one.
Sixers.
All of them won, right?
Yeah,
knocked them out. Then it came to the point differential. I mean, yeah, it just like there just needs to be a better flow of the system. Whether that's putting like I'm just spitballing here, like a current graphic on the games of like point differential with a bar, real time stats, something that makes it more fun. I don't know. I just think it's still lame. You can't.
They should put computer screens and we should Zoom audience again. That was fun.
I think for
the bubble and the in-season tournament.
Yeah.
Well, I like the courts different. You can tell which like I like it. I'm a fan. It was great basketball in November. I was excited.
I think most fans didn't know the difference, is what I'm gathering from the fans that I know, is that they were just like, what does this mean? Blah, blah, blah. And I spent a lot of time explaining it in my columns, and I felt like I was from a work related standpoint, I feel like I was studying for the finals again. But that's
a problem though. That's a problem. If you're taking that long to explain something, then that's a problem.
I was glad when it ended. I was glad when it ended for the Cavs, because I was I don't have to write about this anymore. But I do like I'm a traditionalist through and through, but I like these goofy courts because I think someday we're going to look back at them and go, remember when they used those crazy courts? And I don't know that they'll last, but I think there's too much complaining about them. But I will tell you this real quick. My absolute favorite, far and away in-season tournament moment.
Let's hear it.
I don't know if you guys saw this. DeMar DeRozan. I can't remember who they were playing. Did you see this?
No.
Whoever, it was like the Raptors or somebody. I don't remember. Whatever group they're in. They were playing a game. This is like game 3 of the in-season tournament. And the other team, they're up like 15 with like 25, 30 seconds left, and they're going hard to the hole and dunking it. And then they get a steal off a pass off from the Bulls, and they go in and dunk it again. And DeMar DeRozan turns to their bench. He's like, what are you doing? And they're like trying to explain to him, we got to beat you by so many points. He had no idea. He had no clue. Jeez. And this is like game 3. But it was just, he wasn't like angry looking at them. He's just looking at them in confusion, like, why are you guys doing this?
Yeah.
You're already up 20. And he had no clue. So the fact that it's new, they're playing on all these crazy courts, I found it highly entertaining.
Yeah, I did
in the
too.
Sense there was just so many things that were funny to me about it. And I mean, cool. I mean, who knows? I can't imagine getting excited for the
funny doesn't mean excitement or doesn't mean it's good. The courts are okay, fine, but the NBA now has so many different jerseys, so many different anniversaries that to me they all kind of blend together. I mean, some teams have 3 or 4 different courts. It seems like the Cavs have 3 different courts, right? They have one for the regular one, and they have one for the in-season tournament, and then do they have maybe not this?
Yeah, I think the city edition stuff.
The Miami Heat were mad about their court. Did you hear about that?
No.
The Miami Heat are, I guess they said something to the league. Their Cavs regular court that they always use, it might be the only one in the league that's left like this, is a few inches up. Like when you sit down, it's up, it's raised.
Mm-hmm.
And the Heat felt that was dangerous and mentioned it, I believe, to the league. And then, somebody asked JB about it, and he said, "Well, what can I do?" But yeah, it really is. It's raised up quite a bit, and I think it's the only one left in the league that way.
Well, the Cavs normal court's raised.
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't the play-in court. This is a normal court that I'm talking about. The regular court that they always use.
Oh, Miami
raised up off the floor.
Oh, I got you.
No, the Cavs is, but Miami complained about it.
Why are they complaining about it?
Everyone's confused, so we should just move on.
Hold on. The Cavs have been playing on a raised court for like 15 years. They just realized it?
They just complained about it. Somebody fell off of it. Somebody fell off of it, and
well, I'll explain my theory on that after we finish the episode, because I got a theory about that. Anyway,
about
over the next couple
court.
weeks, the Cavs don't play again until Saturday because of the in-season tournament, and then they don't play again until Wednesday because of the in-season tournament. So here we go. They're going to finish Slate 6, Week 6, in Detroit at 7 p.m. And let me tell you, the Twitter will be on fire if the Cavs lose that game.
It's a dangerous game.
Dangerous game. The 7th, Wednesday, December 6th, we host the Magic. I love the Magic. Let me just say that, at the Rock. And then we're in Miami, December 8th, Friday, for the Heat, 8 p.m. And then here in a week and a half or so, Monday, December 11th, we're in Orlando for the Magic again. And then we travel to Boston for 2 straight away games in Boston, Tuesday the 12th and the 14th. Woo! What a next couple weeks here for the Cavs. Sam, is it possible if we lose every game that Bickerstaff is fired before Christmas?
Gosh, I get no. For me, it's always, how do you lose? How do you, did you look bad? Did you lose by 1? Did you lose in overtime? Did you give a great showing in Boston but got injuries? Or I think there's so many factors in that. All things, say everything's the way it is right now and they lose all those games, I don't think you could fire them. I just don't.
I think this will go off the rails quick. I think this could.
If you lose to Detroit, who's lost 17 in a row, if you lose to them and then you lose Orlando at home, Miami, Boston, Orlando on the road, I don't know that he gets fired, but I'm going to have to answer a lot more reader email or DMs or whatever about why he still has a job, and I'll have a harder time, sticking up for him in that situation. So I don't think that will happen with the Cavs, but who knows? Who knows with this team?
This schedule is pretty intimidating for a team struggling to find any type of chemistry after a rough loss like that.
Well, I guess the only saving grace is that you've got the worst team in the league coming up here, Detroit. So, I mean, you lose that game. Oof.
Oh, man. We might have to do emergency recording if we lose that game.
You might have to. I mean, you do the Florida swing, Orlando, Miami, you're back again against Orlando. Orlando's playing great ball right now. I think we haven't talked about them at all yet this season, but
it's not Magic on the break. It's not
Magic on the
Magic
break,
under the hat. This is Cavs on the break. We're not going to talk about the Orlando Magic.
Cavs against a team that's coming to kind of came out of nowhere, and now as we record this, they're 13-5, and they play them in 2 games in 3 days, type of thing. So I don't know, Chase. I mean, that's a lot of hypotheticals. It's a lot of what ifs, So I'll just say this: if those bad habits continue to form, and you continue to lose games you shouldn't lose, that seat's going to get warmer. I don't think he'll get fired. Yeah,
I will say this: if the Cavs had played with the feistiness that Chase is displaying tonight, would have been a whole different story.
Hey, the Cavs know my number. You know who else knows my number? John and Sam, thank you so much for joining this episode of Cavs on the Break. That does it. This is it. Thank you all for downloading and listening as well. Shouts to the Press Play Podcast Network for making this possible. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Cavs on the Break. We always follow back. Shouts to DraftKings. You can download that app now and use code P3Cavs to sign up. New customers can take home $200 in bonus bets instantly just for betting $5. That's code P3Cavs only for new customers on DraftKings who sign up using our code on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. The crown is yours. You can also follow Sam on Twitter at Amico Hoops. Catch all of his works and writings at hoopswire.com and at Wire Hoops. You can follow John on Twitter at John_Sabol. And I have to ask, who wins the Junkyard Dog Award for this episode? What do you guys think?
I vote
Chase.
Oh, go ahead. Okay, listen. I was going to say John because he seemed to keep his head and his wits about him. And more importantly than that, I don't think he's won it yet.
The season. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
And my obvious choice would have been Chase because he was totally he was a junkyard dog tonight. very feisty, not afraid to call us out when he didn't like our opinions, rooted on the in-season tournament. But I also think, hey, John kept his wits about him, kept perspective, and it's going to deserve it at some point. We might as well give it to him now, get it out of the way. That's just my own feeling.
Man, I don't even know. So you kind of like voted for both. I don't even know. Like I feel insulted, Sam. You just like
John by a whisker. John by a whisker is my vote.
I'll take the Junkyard Dog chain. I'll put it on right now.
All right, John. Congratulations, Junkyard Dog Gore, for this episode. John Sabol, final thoughts.
No matter how bad this game and effort was, we've still got a long way to go. Let's see how they respond. Through adversity can come strength. And let's see where this true character of this ball club is, guys. We got a long way to go. It's going to be, I still think it's going to be a successful season. I want to see how they respond more than anything. And they'll start coming up here against the Detroit Pistons.
All right. Mike Breen, take us out.
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.